This is Kate Baconsale. You're listening to Baconsale.
In the beginning, there was one bit, and the bit was with Pong, and the bit was good.
Oh, no.
Then that one bit begat the Atari, and that Atari begat the 8-bit NES. And that NES begat the 16-bit Super Nintendo. But there was a challenger to the 16-bit throne. This challenger was Sega!
It started
Because-
biblical, and then it turned into Game of Thrones?
I'll give it to you.
I'm not done.
Oh,
Really? I was
okay.
into it.
Because Sega does what Nintendon't. Welcome to the next level of Baconsale.
All right. That stayed with
It was like 4 minutes long, but right? We're good.
No,
That's
I'm
good.
Yeah, you
Bacon. Sell.
Yeah. There's my closer right there.
Oh, yeah, use that.
Yes,
Go
thank
ahead.
you. Thank you
Welcome
very
to
much.
Baconsale, everyone. I'm Joel.
I'm Kent.
and Jacob.
And we're so glad that all of you agree with everything we said on the non-Disney animated second part.
With everything I said, Joel.
Well, the funny thing about it was, and Kent, maybe you could back me up on
Okay,
this.
sure.
Is that we got the movies and we're like, wow, the second grouping is not as good as the first grouping.
Oh.
No one's going to really
Nowhere
care
near.
about these ones.
Right.
And then people were like, how dare you? That is my favorite movie of all time that I haven't watched for 35 years.
It's so true.
Yeah.
The most random stuff, but hey, you know, your passions are your passions.
No, and we love interacting. We love talking to you guys. So thanks for the feedback.
Yes, we asked for it.
Right. So,
What are we talking about today, Jacob?
Today, guys, we are. Man, this actually requires some explanation.
You can just say the general idea of what we're talking about.
We are going to pitch the Sega Genesis Classic with 20 games that Kent and Joel have
That's not
agreed.
that's not the general one.
It
You
is.
say, we're talking about Sega games.
Sega Genesis.
There you go.
Sega.
Well, and okay, we're going to say Sega games the whole time. We're not going to say Sega Genesis games the whole time because everyone knows when you talk about Sega, you're talking about Sega Genesis.
Actually, I say the Mega Drive.
No, you don't.
I do.
Because you're from Japan.
Yes. Clearly, my accent says I'm Japanese.
Because it was called Mega Drive.
Yes.
Outside of America, and in America it was the Genesis. I think because some sort of legal thing.
Because the Bible.
But there was
Obviously.
there was
That's
a
where your intro
Sega.
came from.
Yeah, exactly.
There was a Sega previous to the Sega Genesis, but no one really. I did know people that had it, but it wasn't the main one.
Well, so it came out at the same time the NES came out. The NES is a Nintendo, for everyone that
Yes.
doesn't know. And it's basically what your mom has called every console you've ever owned.
Are you playing that Nintendo again?
Quit playing Nintendo. Mom, it's PlayStation 2. By this point, you should know. So
That conversation actually just happened 2 minutes ago.
Mom, it's PlayStation 4. So actually, the NES sold 62 million units.
That's a lot.
62 million, which was a ton for back in the 80s.
Oh yeah, especially for video game consoles, which are still up and coming.
And the Master System, which was the first Sega.
Yes.
It was 13 million, which is
That's still good.
okay, but it was mostly in Japan and not very successful here.
But I remember my friend had one, and it was kind of this. Oh, cool! This is a
Alex Kidd and
off-brand
Wonder Boy
Nintendo.
and- yeah.
Like, and all the cartridges look pretty much the same. But,
Yeah.
And yes, we are going to get a little video game geeky here, but please stay with us.
And we should probably, explain the impetus for this show, right? Which is the Super
Jacob, family
Nintendo.
friendly.
Yeah, please.
Oh, sorry.
Please.
So, in honor of the Super Nintendo that will be coming out in, I don't remember what day. Do you remember what day?
Yes, I do. In fact, let's get into that real quick. if
Just
we
tell the
shall.
history, Joel. You got it.
So back in November 2016, they released the NES Classic, which was this little tiny box that looked like a Nintendo. It was like a miniature Nintendo, same size paddles, but it had 30 built-in games licensed from the NES library. And it was a lot of games that a lot of people enjoyed, such as Punch-Out!, Dr. Mario, Mega Man 2, Legend of Zelda.
Unfortunately,
Super
no
Mario
one
Brothers.
has heard about this console. So, this is a totally underground
Jake,
thing.
No one has it.
Oh, is that what it
Yes,
is?
yes.
Is that what it is?
Because Nintendo said, "Hey, we're going to release this." Everyone's like, "Great! Why isn't Contra on it?" Not the point. But
It's a Mike Tyson's Punch Out, please.
no, it's not Mike Tyson's Punch Out. It's just generic Punch Out.
Mr. Perfect.
We couldn't
Oh.
get licensing for Mike Tyson. But they said we
Is that the marketing department?
pretty much. But they came out with this and said, "Yeah, it's gonna be great." And everyone was so excited, and they tried to buy them, and then they were gone as soon as they came. And people were buying them up and trying to sell them on eBay for like quadruple the amount they paid for it. Like,
And selling them like that.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, people were actually buying it.
And so people got mad.
Not only that, so it was 2.3 million of the classic NESs.
Yeah.
And then Nintendo goes, oh, we're done.
And why? Why? There was totally a market for them, and they're like, never mind.
Nintendo's never had the best launch of anything. I remember when the Wii came out all those years ago?
We remember.
Come on.
Don't you remember the commercials? We would like to play with you.
Is that what they win? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's their thing. Sure. But so everyone tried to get one, and they didn't make enough for, almost 6 months, maybe more?
And they think it creates
More.
demand, but it just creates anger.
Yeah, anger, and then people move on. Yes.
But on September 29th, 2017, the future, the distant future of this Friday, they are going to release the Super Nintendo Classic Edition with 21 Super NES titles pre-installed.
Guys, I got to go. I'm going to go wait in line
You should.
right now.
Because they're going to include such things as F-Zero, Star Fox, Mario Kart, Super Mario World, Donkey Kong Country, and a bunch of other ones no one cares about.
That does hit nostalgia
No.
for me.
There are a lot of great games on here. Link to the Past is there. Really? Huh?
I've never been big on Zelda.
Really?
Never. I don't know why.
Okay.
I like the music.
Send your hate mail.
Yes, your hate
No,
mail.
here's
It
the
is
thing.
the most beloved thing. in
People have already
Nintendo,
talked
yeah.
about this. Even back in May at E3, they showed a few, and Nintendo was
E3.
like,
Explain E3.
E3 is a video game conference, a
you
big
go.
thing that takes place in Las Vegas or no,
Entertainment.
California.
Yeah,
Expo.
it's, yeah.
And so they kind of already they braced everyone for not having enough already. Like they are not going to
Enough
have
Super Nintendos.
enough Super Nintendo classics. The difference here is that the NES Classic had a 3-foot cable from your TV.
Oh, yeah.
A 3-foot cable,
Which,
from the console itself.
It
This one-
comes,
It's embarrassing.
but it comes from the days when your TV used to be on the floor. It was those big wooden TVs.
Yeah,
It was
right.
on the floor, and you just sit in front of the TV on the floor and play.
or hitting your power paddle with your hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I mean, I want you to go out there, listener, and look at your TV and measure how far it is from your couch and tell me if it's 3 feet or
Hey,
less.
Oh, but no, Nintendo has got it solved. Now they're 5 foot for the Super Nintendo Classics.
What?
5 feet.
That'll get you an extra 2 feet.
Yeah.
Math.
Right?
Now, I know there's someone out there right now thinking to themselves, well, wait a minute. If they're going to be pitching a Sega Genesis Classic, I know that Sega Genesis has come out with a console that has games on already pre-installed.
And you'd be wrong, listener.
And you have a Lisp. I don't know why.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No. But there was, and in fact, my parents own this console, the Sega Genesis, what do they call it? Sega Mega Drive Flashback, or Genesis Flashback, which features 85, I think it said, 85 built-in games. Most of them are not good or even really Sega. Like,
Right.
there's someone there, I'm like, this wasn't a Sega game. Like, why would you put this on here?
Well, actually, so Sega,
And-
they don't do consoles anymore. They
No.
only make software.
Yes.
So actually, we may get in the history in just a little bit, but they
Yes.
made the Master Drive, the Genesis, the 32X, the Sega CD, and the Dreamcast, Saturn. Sorry, there's a lot of things there. We're
Yeah.
getting into the weeds. Nerd. But then they lost money. They lost money
Yes.
in a big way.
Wait.
Okay, no, yeah, we'll get there.
We'll get
But here's the thing: these consoles, these flashbacks,
Yes.
like Joel's talking about, none of them are made by Sega. So we feel like, well, look, we don't even care. We just want to talk about Sega Genesis.
Well,
okay?
that's the whole
They're
point.
made
Right.
by a third party.
Yes.
The gameplay
They're emulators.
They're emulators, so the gameplay is not the same. It means they're not using the same type of software. They're using an emulator.
And it makes it not real.
An imposter.
Too. Yeah.
And also, like having played it, the gameplay's not good, and the paddles they use. The cool thing about it, and I will say the cool thing about it, is it has a cartridge slot on the top, so that you can play all the built-in games, or you can use the
your old
games you
games.
still have
That
in
is
your
cool.
closet, and that's
Either
great.
or, that is cool.
But the paddles were also pretty terrible because they were infrared, and so
What?
which is good because you have the long you don't want a short cord,
no cable.
But then it also was very spotty, like it's line of sight, and if you're like playing a game where you're moving around a lot, sometimes it would miss.
You mean
a
if a
button.
girl is playing a video game?
I didn't say that. You said that.
They're flipping the controller
Send
around.
your hate mail to
Hey, look, all I'm saying is I remember
podcast@gmail.com.
my sisters used to play video games that way when video games had
Care
a
of
cord.
Kent Dunn.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, but like it was kind of a spotty thing. So we decided we were going to take our version of if they make an official non-third party, an official
Yes.
Sega Genesis Classic console. What games do Kent and I think should be on there? Because Kent and I are Sega guys.
And this
Isn't
is a
that
different.
weird?
This is a different approach too. You guys are not going to argue. You're not going to pitch what should be on there.
Yes, we are, Jacob. We are going to argue.
You have already decided this.
I've
You've
already I have a
decided.
10-minute rant about Anastasia. I want to
Now
go on right
you are
now.
unveiling.
We're not going to
So-
include her game on this. Sega.
Here's the thing: the Super Nintendo sold more units than the Sega Genesis. Just it was about 49 million to maybe 30.
So you're saying it's
Right.
a better console?
It sold more.
Oh, okay, better
But
console. I
there
get
are
it.
some pretty timeless games,
But
on
not
the Super
always.
Nintendo.
There was like 4 out of 5 Christmases or five Christmases in a row when Sega Genesis beat Super Nintendo.
And why did the Super Nintendo finally come out on top? Donkey Kong Country.
Yep.
Really?
Even
That's
though they
what
had
saved
Super
them.
Mario World, they had a great games for years
That
and
was a
years.
huge launch.
For 2 years, Donkey Kong Country just killed it.
Which I was never really big into Donkey Kong Country, but that's what we'll get into as well.
I liked it.
Because the other reason that Sega Genesis succeeded,
I love when you guys do research, you get
was
all nerdy.
because when do I not do research?
I know, it's great. That's why I like the show.
I don't have any research here. This is just
Hey
me
Joel, we're
talking.
doing Taco Bell. Okay, I'm going to find the whole history of Taco Bell. I'm going to let you know how many stars there are. That's me. In a nutshell.
Did you just blast yourself?
Yes,
Is
I
that
did.
okay?
He did. I don't even know what to
My
say about that.
self-esteem is so
Can't really
low.
make fun of him now.
But Sega succeeded in marketing. And the way they marketed themselves was, look, that's your kid's console. That's your parents' console. Sega's the cool console.
Yeah.
Sega! Like they were all high energy, look how cool we are. And in fact, they did some survey research, Sony did, and came to find out that the adolescent males are less likely to admit they had a Super Nintendo than if they have a Sega. Like they wanted to pretend they had a Sega.
It was cooler to have the Sega.
It was.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh yeah, they have all these cool games. And it was the more, if I may say, we'll get into this too later on, but violent console.
Yes.
They allowed a lot more. And they were one of the pioneers in the rating of games because of games they had, and they had to put a label on them.
Well, actually, Joel, the Sega Genesis had a little thing called blast processing. Blast processing was their marketing slogan, and guess what it meant?
Nothing.
Nothing. Every commercial is like, the Genesis has blast processing.
Sega!
And they show Sonic running through the loops.
Sega!
And then they show Mario kind of like bouncing around really slowly. Welcome to the next level. And
Blast process.
so their processor actually was faster at 7.2 megahertz. I'm getting real geeky here compared to
Wow.
the Super Nintendo, which is 3.6.
he just knew that off the top of his head, too.
But guess what? The Super Nintendo actually did have better graphics. Like this, the Genesis ran a little bit faster, but the Super Nintendo was actually a better system. But because they had coined blast processing, so many kids bought into it.
Yeah.
And so it worked.
Like you two.
Like us. Yeah, exactly.
You may think this is like a non-issue, like talking about these video game consoles, like, oh, it's not a big deal, but I'll have you know. In fact, I'm going to read this. The release of the Super Nintendo Entertainment System 2 years after the Genesis resulted in a fierce battle for market share in the United States and Europe that has often been termed as a console war by journalists and historians.
I'm actually listening to the audiobook called Console Wars.
Really?
And it's about basically the two presidents who moved into Genesis and Nintendo at the time and how they kind of started their companies. And this was the biggest battle. I would like to say I've grown up in the past 25 years.
The biggest battle ever? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Ever.
Like we even talked about
at
this.
Taco Bell. But
Like if you
no one's gonna
everyone
get that
knows
reference.
college football rivalries, right?
Yeah.
And you try to forget them sometimes. Right now, I am 36 and I still talk about DC and Marvel. Like or Apple and Samsung, right?
when you think of these wars, you think of like the Cola Wars.
Yes.
And that's another kind of
You got the right
social
one,
war.
baby. Yeah.
But then, and McDonald's versus Burger King had a thing for a while. But now
How much into this war, the console war, did you get, Joel?
I was diehard Sega.
Yeah.
I would be Team Sega all the way because I'd go in there and be like, oh, well, Super Nintendo, me. But
So GamePro used to have this full page where they'd have envelopes that fans have drawn, and they'd be like, to GamePro, and it would always have like the coolest art. Like it'd be like Scorpion doing something funny or whatever. I would monthly write to GamePro, and I would draw entire envelopes of basically Mario getting his hat chewed up by a Tyrannosaurus Rex from Jurassic Park, or Sonic just running over the dead body of Mario
that
or
must have
something.
been a rough college for you.
I was 12 and 13.
Wow,
okay.
Doogie Howser, way to go.
You mean drawing death art on envelopes?
So you're drawing Mario dying in horrible ways.
Yes, because I
say it to
ended-
GamePro. And then in
Yes.
the meantime, they're contacting the local authorities.
I would draw Sonic
got a
wearing
problem.
Scorpion's clothes and then like a fatality with Mario or something.
Yeah.
I got so into something that didn't matter at all, but I hated Mario and loved Sonic for no reason.
I should, though, say apparently I wasn't that into the console wars.
Yeah, did you draw killer envelopes?
No, because I would...
Try and
With
beat that.
anthrax in them?
I love them both. I wanted them to come together. I was like, I just want Mario and Sonic to be in the same, universe. I want to have the games be together. It bugged me that I could get some games on Sega, but couldn't get other games because they were on Nintendo.
See, I disagree. Now that like the Xbox and PlayStation, they're so friendly with each other. They're almost the same system because there are so few exclusives. Now they're just
Which I'm fine with.
they're compatible, and then you're like,
One console to rule them all.
whoa, really? The Game Boy, probably.
Yeah.
You feel like PlayStation and Xbox are really friendly?
Yeah, they have the cross chat now. The Xbox guys are always showing love to PlayStation. It's the weirdest thing. And there's only about 5 exclusives maybe per year on each system.
That's still quite a few.
Not what like it used to be.
Yeah,
they used to have
there's just
different
more
developers
independent
even
guys.
making the same games on these other systems. I don't know. This used to be my thing. This was the big flame war. I'm glad Twitter didn't exist back then.
It would have been bad.
Really bad.
Yeah. But so now, there's anything else you want to say about the history of Sega,
Yeah.
Kent?
I
not,
mean, I
let's
could
get
give
into
my
the
own
list.
personal history of Sega.
Go for it. Why not?
So I think I was, hold on, 12.
Okay.
I was 12 years old. And I did enough chores to make $130.
Holy cow. How many chores did that take you?
Mowing the lawn for like an entire summer.
Okay.
Okay. I made $130. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to Toys R Us because the Streets of Rage 2 Sega Genesis combo pack is $129.
You didn't have enough because of tax.
Yeah, I don't think I did actually.
But then an old man met him and said, "How about you just pay that $129 and give me a hug, and I'll take the rest."
It's getting to the dark turn.
What? No, that's an uplifting story.
Is it an old man wanting a hug if he buys me?
No, remember that story about the guy who had the kid had a jar of pennies, and the guy says, "Give me that and a hug."
Well, actually, I did. Some guy said, I was like, I want to buy this Genesis for my mama, please.
Not in this month, kids. Do not make that holidays references in this holidays month.
I'm so sorry. So I paid $130. I got my Sega Genesis with Streets of Rage 2, and I never looked back.
Which is funny
Literally?
because, man, I never really played that game. Like,
Yeah.
It's funny that game was so iconic for you.
No, it's, and then I got all the Sonics and everything, but I never got a Nintendo 64. I moved straight to PlayStation. That's another show altogether.
Right.
I ended up buying a Wii eventually, but I never really cared for it. I never really showed it the love that it maybe needed. And I never really looked at Nintendo again, honestly.
Well, and I just wanted to kind of bring it up. I actually did talk about this back on Baconsale episode 86, Toy Stories, December 5th of last year. But one of my most memorable Christmas gifts is the day we woke up in the morning, we went downstairs, and we had a brand new big TV. We're talking, this thing may have been 40 inches, maybe 35.
That's
I'm not
actually
sure.
pretty big for back then.
Yeah.
I think
that was big.
it was a big TV. It was square. But I remember, and we also got a Sega Genesis with Sonic 2. And I was
Sonic 2
playing
is
that
so
half pipe level on this giant screen 3 feet away from it. And it was amazing. So Sonic the Hedgehog was kind of my dive into it. What I really became a fan of was that whole franchise. But we'll get into that when we talk about the games. I just want to give my history as well.
I mean, Sonic's probably not going to make the list, though, right?
Probably not.
Probably not. And we're not doing is this 20-1 best Sega games, or are we kind of just going random here?
It's more along the lines of Kent and I came together. We debated back and forth. There was some heated arguments that Jacob just stayed away from. And
It's true. For the best, honestly.
But Ken and I came up with a list, 20 games, 20-1. We're going to start with number 20, and we're kind of saying these are the ones that should be included. And the higher up on the list, the more we think they should be included. Like, you need this one more than this one, more than this one.
And this is a favorites list, not necessarily a critical approach as the very best ones.
There's
Even though
some
your
critical.
opinion's
It's-
right,
it's
though.
almost
I'm
like-
sure your opinions
I
are
would have
perfectly
cut
right.
out some of these games had it not been for popular opinion.
There are other favorites, but I think it's if you want a complete Genesis experience,
Like I would
you should
love,
get these games.
like I would love to include a game like Flashback on there because I want everyone to experience this really fun
Super
game.
weird. Yeah.
but it's
Fun?
not. No, because it was groundbreaking to me. I talked about that one before
Right.
on the video game show, but I decided we can't really include that one because I'd like to have it on there, but
And I don't want to
not a
promote
favorite.
piracy, but go buy Raspberry Pi and you can have all these games.
I didn't say that. We didn't say that. Baconsale not. It's not.
And you'll
approved
actually
yet.
get it in for $60.
Not endorsed by Baconsale.
All right, number 20.
And we're starting off with kind of throwing the sports people a bone.
Yeah.
Because Kent, were you a big sports video game player?
Back then I was, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
You knew how
Okay.
to sport online?
When I was 12.
Not online, I guess. Digitally?
When I was 12, my dream was to be an NBA player. And so I used to play basketball.
This is when you were drawing dead Marios?
Yeah,
you
no.
wanted to be an NBA player?
I was an artist and an athlete. No, I played Blades of Steel and other sports games, but that's
Yeah.
about it.
Well, and I played, Tecmo Bowl back on the NES. I played a lot of the Maddens.
Arch Rivals, all
but
that good stuff.
I didn't play Arch Rivals. And
Very good.
But I wasn't really big into sports. So this is kind of a compromise, we'll say. We're including Mutant League Football.
Yeah. Came out in 1993.
Now, this game, you use the Madden 93 engine, so it's a legitimate football game, but it's set in a post-apocalyptic world where radiation has caused the human race to mutate and dead to rise from the grave. So you're playing
when that happens.
with monsters and skeletons and zombies, and they'll have cool names like thrash.
And no, actually, Bones Jackson, KT Slayer instead of Lawrence Taylor, Joe Magician instead of Joe Montana, and Scary Ice instead of Jerry Rice. So these names are really not
Scary
great.
Ice.
Yeah. Scary Ice.
Well, and they have those. Then they
Ice.
also have the random ones like Death Killer and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they had what are some of the team names? I have that written down here too.
60 Whiners instead of this, or the 40 Whiners. That's
I
what
think it
it
was
is.
Taserface is what it was.
Taserface.
Don't do that.
I
You
did
don't
that,
need
I
that.
did that just for you.
Every character looks like Taserface, though.
Okay.
But so the gameplay was actually pretty legitimate. Like it was straightforward. You pick your play. You pass or run. You pick a defense. Like it was exactly like you'd imagine these games to be.
Yeah.
But there were added benefits. Like you could bribe the ref once per half, and they'd call penalties on the other team. You could kill the ref, or you could kill the quarterback, and you would get a penalty
Or eat him
5
because
yards.
you're a zombie.
Well, they would just kind of smash into him, and they'd turn into a puddle of blood. Is how it would
and there are
happen.
landmines and holes in the field and
You could,
everything.
if you in the
Yes.
space one, if you step near the edge, you get swept off into space. But it's a legitimate football game, but it has that added weirdness to it that makes it fun.
Yeah.
And that's why we included it on the must include if you're going to make a Sega Genesis classic.
Nice.
Number 19 is Strider. Strider.
You
from
mean
19?
excuse me?
From Lord
you
of
mean
the Rings?
Aragorn?
Yes, I wish. I wish there was just a Strider game. That would be really cool. So Strider came out in 1990. This was one of those. It's kind of it's a side scroller. Pretty much every one of these platform games are going to be a side scroller.
Mutant League Football. wasn't it?
Basically, if you're not in with the video games, there's 3D, which kind of happens with a few of these.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them are just side to side, right? Think Contra, think Mario.
Yeah, the side scrolling mean the back is moving.
This is one of Capcom who does Mega Man, who does Street Fighter.
Mega High!
This is one of their first big hits.
Mother Brain!
I miss Mother Brain.
I do too.
So, Joel, you played Strider in the past few days, I assume.
Yes, well, and so when you were debating to put this one on the list, and you pushed for it pretty hard. In
Yeah.
fact, you said I will give up one of my pitch shows to let you have this on here.
What?
And I said yes. Okay,
Hey,
we'll do that.
wait a minute.
We
I went on the
shook on
rocket
it.
for that.
But so I put this on here and I went, I don't really know it, but I went and played it the other night and it did seem familiar. It wasn't a main staple for me, but it was definitely one that I'd played in the past.
Did it seem like it kind of played into the whole Cold War fear back in the day?
Yeah, that's what's weird. So you have this guy,
Yeah.
and he's like a samurai kind of a guy with a
a
sword.
blonde-haired samurai.
Yeah, blonde-haired samurai with a sword that makes, it's
Basically a
big
Sonic
swishing sword.
Boom.
And then he's fighting in Soviet Russia.
The futuristic Soviet.
Yeah,
Soviet
there's
Russia.
like a bunch of Soviet guys who jump and become a metal snake to fight you.
It's actually the 2048's the Russian Empire. But this whole game screams like Cold War fear, and let's have a blonde hero save everybody with a big sword.
Yeah, and this is one of Capcom's early hits before Street Fighter 2 came along, which Street Fighter 2 is an SNES game. In case you're wondering, that's a Super Nintendo game.
It came out on Genesis as well.
Eventually. Initially, it was just Super Nintendo, and that was one of the big pulls of Super Nintendo.
But being a hack and slash game, like Strider was pretty fun. It's basic. And it actually, I don't think it got a sequel maybe until the PlayStation 2 or 3, actually.
Well, and it's weird because it's also multilingual. Did you notice that?
Yeah,
Like they have
yes.
like Russian and English and and Mandarin Chinese and Japanese. Like they kind of, it's a really, really weird modge-podge of games. But the cool thing about it is the acrobatics.
Yes.
That's why I think this one stuck out to a lot of people, is because normally with, Mario or Mario, it's just kind of a jumping thing and you jump onto a platform, whereas this guy, he would like do like somersaults and cartwheels, and he'd grab onto stuff and flip up. Like he could climb on walls.
He is also kind of wearing like an Olympian sort of gymnast outfit as well.
Yeah.
So he's everything.
Which protects you from bullets. as we
everything
know.
Strider wished he was.
Yeah, Strider Aragorn. Yeah.
Yeah, Aragorn.
So our number 18 game is T2, the arcade game. Not T2 Judgment Day. They are two separate games. Apparently there were a number of games that were about Terminator 2 that they released. Now this one you may, even if you didn't have a Sega Genesis, you may have played because it was a very, very popular arcade game with the orange gun and the blue gun.
But it had guns on the arcade.
They had guns for the Sega Genesis.
Did they?
They did.
Wasn't that the Super Nintendo, the Super Scope?
They had, what is it called? It was the Menacer. The Genesis.
That's the name of the gun?
The name of the gun was the Menacer, which I didn't have.
No.
Terrible
So
name.
I played this in the arcade game. It's a typical shooter game in an arcade game. Which, by the way, kids, arcades are where people used to go to play video games.
They pay a whole
A
quarter.
long time ago.
But you have your gun and you shoot, and then like the screen would scroll, and there'd be T1000s or T800s running in, and you got to shoot them. You got to not shoot the people. And it was really, really fun in the arcade. And then you get on the home system, and you're using a paddle. Like we use the paddles.
Yeah.
And using a paddle to aim isn't as fun, but man, we played this game a lot.
It's intense.
And it's a short game, too.
Yeah.
If you do it right. And it's also kind of complicated because the whole point is you're trying to avoid Judgment Day. So you've got to make sure you destroy everything that you need to destroy. And if you don't, the ending is, sorry, the Judgment Day still happens, everyone dies, which I always got. I've never gotten a positive ending.
If I may, I'm going to read the story real quick and see if this sounds familiar.
Go for it.
The player takes the role of a T-800 Terminator cyborg, already captured and reprogrammed by the human resistance, and fights alongside them against Skynet in the year 2029.
Oh, how
Eventually,
handy.
the T-800 and John Connor perpetrate Skynet's headquarters and destroy the system's CPU. Does that sound exactly like Terminator Salvation?
Vaguely familiar.
It sounds like Terminator 2.
Yeah, it's Terminator 2.
Well, it is. It's every Terminator, but in Terminator Salvation, the one with Christian Bale, that's what they do with the whole Marcus character. Remember the movie you forgot about?
No, but
with the one with Christian Bale.
I don't remember
But
the
I'm
movie.
trying to figure out how you're differentiating this from the actual T2.
Because
T2,
it's literally the same time, because they capture him and they put him in that timeline. Wibbly wobbly.
I
multiverse.
always just thought it was just the Terminator 2 storyline because you go in.
But it's in the
shoot-
future. It's the first one in the future.
No, but they show the future, and then you get a fight there for a bit, and then you go back, and then you go to.
Do you go back in T2, the arcade game?
I'm pretty sure you do because you got to destroy all the stuff in the lab at Cyberdyne.
Pull it up. Let's play it.
Okay, we actually do
We're
have
gonna
it right
find out.
behind
We
us,
should
so we're
play
going to
it.
do it.
But that's our number 18, T2, the arcade game.
We're throwing another bone here with a sports game. I'm very sorry. We're going to get through these as quick as we possibly can.
Your big sigh.
Well, because no, it's not because
Sports
it's not because of the sports thing. It's because I wanted a different one, and this was a compromise I made with Kent.
I like how you said that.
I'm
I
regretting-
wanted a different one.
Now, Joel, I'm glad you made that compromise because you made the right choice, and so did I. The game is NHL 94. And let me just talk about some of the accolades
It's
of
a
this
hockey game.
It's a hockey game. Well, hopefully you know that by NHL.
My daughter actually asked me, "What does NHL stand for?" And I had to explain what NHL, NFL, NBA, and you'd be proud because I got them all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
So even to this day, this is considered one of the top 100 games of all time by IGN, number 47 actually. ESPN
Wow.
ranked it second on all-time sports video games.
And it's because
Like now. And you know what? It's not a very good game.
well, it's
It's fun for then.
but it makes you feel like you're playing hockey. Like they
Yeah.
actually did some sort of physics algorithms where you're sliding across the ice, and it feels like you have to control yourself and not go too fast.
And it's impossible to score, just like a real hockey game.
I got one. I did got one, and I beat
Ah.
it. So I feel like a real hockey game because I got one, and I had to be proud of that. Also, icing. I hate icing.
Yeah.
I get that
I think
stupid
it's-
penalty every
I'm like,
time.
I don't even know what icing means. How did I do it?
It's when it crosses the two lines. Like there's the lines.
Yep, I knew that.
Okay.
You know sports. Well done, sir.
I had to figure out what icing was.
So the NHL, this is when they started getting really involved in these games because they used to just make like Mutant League football, that sort of thing, and they made them remove fighting from the game.
Yes,
Which is kind of lame,
That
right?
is lame.
they wanted to make it a little more family friendly. Who does that?
So I just looked up best sports games of all time, and guess what the first one listed by Google is?
What is that?
A Madden one?
NHL 94.
What?
go.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
True story.
Baconsale, Google approved.
Are we?
But my compromise was I never really played Mutant League football. I played Mutant League hockey.
Oh, I'm sure it's not much different, right? You just look at it from the top and it goes top to bottom.
So they literally used the game engine for NHL 94 for Mutant League hockey. It's the same basic gameplay, but with the
Oh.
mutants. And that's what I played all the time, was playing Mutant League hockey. So I can forgive this one for being on the list, and I will allow it this
Thank you.
time, Kent.
You know, it's kind of funny
But
though.
it'll cost you a pitch show.
Don't do that again. Now I'm in the hole. So they actually made NHL 95, 96, and 97 for the Genesis. And this one is still the best one, considered by all the fans. Like, there are fan communities for NHL 94. Really weird.
Is NBA Jam, was that on Sega?
Yes. Oh, well, in Super Nintendo. It was kind of
Well, I know. I played the
multi-platform.
crap out of it on Super Nintendo, and I didn't know if it was exclusive there or not.
You're right, Super Nintendo was crap. Oh! Sega Boys!
He's on fire.
That was a crappy high five.
Let's try it again. That's the worst high five we've ever done on the show.
It's because we said Super Nintendo.
Yeah. Not so super.
Number 16. So this one is probably one of the hardest kid games out there, but
Yeah,
it's
what
a
were
kid
you doing
game.
putting this one on? This is not a kid's game.
It's a kid's game because it is bright and colorful and fun, and because it is The Lion King, based on Disney's The Lion King. But man, I played it again. It's still hard.
Yeah.
Because the whole point of the game is you're young Simba, and then you're running around, and they have the music playing in the background, which is actually Disney music.
Ooh, do you find defenseless animals to go eat?
You jump on them.
You jump on them, or you in like porcupines, you roar at them, and
Oh,
then
you can
they
roar
tip
them?
over, and then
I never did that.
Yeah,
I just tried to jump over them.
yeah, no. If you roar them, they tip on their back, and then you can jump on them and make them poof.
Can you make that sound again? Well done, sir.
It's not as good as it could be if I had my throat tonight. So we have Lion King, developed by for SNES and Genesis in 1994. But then after you play as Child Simba, which I don't know if many people got past that. I just can't wait to get King, when you have to that level where you have to jump around, change the monkeys, jump on top of giraffes' heads, ride an ostrich, and jump off it.
It is the worst.
It's difficult, but it is really still kind of fun because this was one of those. Oh wow! It looks like the cartoon. Like, these graphics were a huge thing. I don't know if Ken agrees with me here. Probably so. But I used to get cartridges like at the game rental store or something like that, or look at them there wasn't what game stores they had back then. I can't even think of what it was. Doesn't matter.
What, Blockbuster? Is that what you mean?
Maybe, but
Yeah.
I remember going to look at buying them and looking on the back, and you look at the front, it would be this amazing cover art, like, whoa, this is going to be the best game ever. And then you turn it on the back, and you're like, oh, the graphics are terrible. But Lion King was legitimately looked like you were playing the cartoon, and it was the coolest thing. So I put this one on there because because the music. Because once you play that, I just can't wait to be King level. You can't get that music out of your head.
Right.
With 8-bit.
Yeah.
It's funny, we've had a few licensed games, and licensed game means it's adapted from a movie, and they just make a cheap game from it. Mm-hmm. But like Terminator 2 was, well, maybe not such a great port, but still kind of fun. But the Disney games for Sega Genesis really killed it, and we'll get into that a little bit more.
Yeah, speaking of killing, by the way, when he gets older, Jacob, Simba learns such combat moves as scratching, mauling, and throws.
Ooh. Mm-hmm. The lion throw. Infamous.
It's so infamous. All right, number 15 is one of the best Sega Genesis games of all time.
Which is funny because I never played it.
Which is even
until we
funnier
started
because
researching.
that applies to every game we're naming.
yeah, but my heart's not in the rest of those. If someone were to say, hey, let's turn on a Sega Genesis, or let's turn on the Mega Drive right now.
No, you say Sega Genesis.
Let's turn on the Mega Drive. And what game do you want to play? I wouldn't say Sonic. I would say Gunstar Heroes.
Gunstar Heroes.
That's not one of the ones I just played, is it?
It is. It's the first one you played with the guns.
that
with
was the first one?
and the stars
Okay.
and the heroes.
Which is funny, but just once again, when you said Gunstar Heroes, I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I looked it up. This thing was really popular.
Yeah.
Never crossed my radar. I have no idea how.
This is one of those sleepover games that we played constantly when we got tired of Mortal Kombat.
Because it was a two-player where you could go together.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, we should mention that, too. Like, T2 was another one we played together. Terminator 2, just because it's the two-player made it much more
To be honest, I think all
bonding.
these games, and even Super Nintendo games as well, were just sleepover games. That if you died, you'd hand it off to the next player, or, if you beat the level, you hand it off. Jake, did you ever have friends that you had sleepovers with back in the day?
Wait, stop it at friends.
Hey, did you?
Yeah, of course.
Like your mom?
That wouldn't be a sleepover. It was your mom that came
Go to your
over.
room. What? Did you say what you throw in there?
Nothing? What,
No
is,
idea
what do you
what's
mean?
going on. Well, yeah, and most of these games really only take an hour, maybe two to conquer if
Yeah.
you play it straight through and you do it right. But back in the day, you could play for hours and hours and hours.
That, and you couldn't save the games like you can now. So you need 2.5 hours to set aside.
Back
and beat
in
the
my
game.
day, we didn't respawn. We had 3 continues, and then we had to start the whole game over.
Unless you had the code.
Well, some
Which is
games,
not part of this game.
had codes.
So just to explain Gunstar Heroes, this was essentially Contra, except for your heroes are clothed. They are still red and blue.
Oh, dang it.
And if joggers, because Contra always made me laugh because if someone just kind of gently jogs into you, you die. Mm-hmm. In this game, you get incredible guns. It's one of those shooters that you can just do. It's a very cartoony shooter, I should say, much like Contra.
Wait, someone jogs into you?
Yeah, have you ever? We should play Contra after
Can
this.
I read the synopsis
Oh,
of this,
okay,
Ken?
okay.
Yes.
This game is centered around the exploits of the Gunstars, a mercenary family out to stop the Empire, a dictatorship that seeks to revive an ancient weapon by using the power of 4 gems hidden throughout the planet.
Makes sense to me.
And apparently these Gunstars were like put in hibernation on the moon or something like that, and they were revived, or I don't know. There was a whole big backstory to this.
I thought you were talking about Gunstar being the people that ran into you. I played Contra a bunch.
Yeah. In Contra, all the enemies just kind of run into you.
Yeah. As soon as
And
they
then
hit
you
you,
die.
you die.
Yeah.
But I played this for the first time that I can ever remember the other night.
Wow.
Right.
Based on my recommendation?
Well, because it was on the list, and I saw that it was on all these other popular lists, and I went, okay, I'll give it a shot. And at first, it was so frustrating because one, I don't have the manual, so I had no idea how to use the controls. I had to figure it
Right.
out, and I couldn't figure out how to pick up a stupid power up.
I'm sorry.
That was frustrating.
You should have called me.
And then I kept fighting these guys over and over again because you can pick one of 4 levels. You don't have to go in sequential order. You can go in whatever
Much
order
like
you
Mega
want.
Man.
And I picked one of these levels, and it was one where I had to like fight 4 bosses in a row, and it was so frustrating. And I kept dying over and over again. And then my daughter was like, "You're not doing very good." You know?
Your kids just watch
I
you
don't
and
think,
judge you.
I don't think you're going to win this one. And I actually went, "All right, that's not helping. Go to bed."
You made her go to bed?
I made her go to bed.
So you wouldn't even prove her wrong.
But then,
Just
no,
like, go to
but
bed?
that's the worst part because as soon as they all went to bed, I did go help the kids. We put them in bed. I came back down. I beat that level. I beat the next level. I beat the next level. I beat the next level. I was playing this thing for an hour and a half, and I kept being like, "This has got to be the end." Because after you beat the 4 levels, you're like, "That's got to be the end." Nope, there's another level, and I'm like, "Okay, I beat this boss. That's got to be the end." Nope, there's another level, and it kept going, and I finally got to the point where I'm pretty sure it was the end. Because I was on a screen and all the bad guys were looking at me and they were coming in like one by one to fight me. Mm-hmm. But then I died and I didn't have it continue. And I'm like, I'm not starting over.
Well, why would you think it was like the end of the game? Like you beat the game? Is that what you thought?
Yeah.
In like an hour and a half?
Oh, yeah. It's a short game.
That's a really short game.
Here's what
Most
I
of these
picture.
are, Jacob. Most of these only take about an hour or two.
Here's what I picture the conversation
What?
the next morning being. I picture you'd be like, "Good morning, honey," and she's like, "Oh, hi, Dad," and you're like, "Guess what? I
beat
beat
it.
that guy, and
I
the
beat
next
it.
guy, and that guy." She's all, "Sure, Dad, sure."
That's basically what
go
happened.
get me some cereal.
Wait, why are these only an hour and a half? All like the Super Nintendo games I played, they lasted ages.
No, they go back. You'll find, Jacob, they seem like ages as kids, but you do these now and they're like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Do you know why
tops.
it seemed like ages? Because you'd start playing like Super Metroid, and you'd be 30 minutes in, your mom would be like, "Go do your chores," and then you'd pause
Probably
the
true.
game, come back
Well.
in 2 hours, and then start playing again.
Well, and also, I mean, like Echo the Dolphin, which is another game. Well, you get stuck on one part and you don't know how to get through it, and you spend like 15, 20 minutes in this one part getting so mad and throwing your paddle and
oh, throwing the paddle.
Yeah.
Oh boy. And drawing deadly things on envelopes.
yeah. But the thing about Gunstar Heroes, and I will give this as a novice, if you do play Gunstar Heroes, there's 4 basic weapons that you can choose from: Lightning, which fires lasers; Chaser, which fires like little arrows that hone in on the enemies; the Force, which is small bullets; and then Flame, which is a flamethrower. Those are the 4 types: Lightning, Flame, Force, Chaser. But you can combine
That's
them.
my favorite series of Avatar, honestly.
Yeah. But then you can combine them and they become different guns. And I found that the Chaser Lightning matchup, like if you have those 2 guns and use them at the same time, is unstoppable.
I love this Joel so much.
It was the best gun. In fact, if I didn't get it, I'd actually sacrifice myself so I could start the level over and get the Lightning
So
Chaser.
this was voted as the best action game of 1993.
Wow,
So,
and I never
pretty
heard
big
of it
deal.
until now.
It's awesome.
pretty big deal in 1993.
Speaking of big deals in the 90s, how about X-Men, folks?
Da-na-na-na-na-na.
Which wasn't the music in the game.
Yeah. What's
But
up with that?
I don't know. But the X-Men cartoon, I mean, believe it was right around that same time, right?
It was.
Because this is why they did it. They made this Sega game, X-Men, and this is one of the funnest. We should talk about this if we've conquered these games or not. Because
Very few I probably have.
this was one of the funnest games I've never conquered.
Same.
Because it gets impossible.
I'm looking up some of the runtimes here. Like Donkey Kong Country was only 4 hours.
That's Super Nintendo. Wrong
that was
discussion.
really
Jacob.
replayable, though.
How dare you?
I remember playing it forever. I must have died constantly or something.
Yeah. Well, there's some levels like that spider. I
I'm
don't know
looking
why.
like Aladdin right now. It says it's only 2 hours.
Yeah. That's what I'm telling you.
That's crazy.
Believe me once in a while, Jacob.
That's-
Believe me.
And
It's
these
gonna
games
take
were
time.
each $40.
Especially after the stuff you've said.
But so in the X-Men game, you can play as either Gambit, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, or Cyclops, which is cool because then you're like, well, I'm going to be Wolverine. Except for the fact that you have a life bar and you have a mutant power bar, and you can only use your mutant powers.
I love eating mutant power bars. So good.
But you can only use it a certain amount of times, and then if you try to use it more, like if you try to have Wolverine's claws out the whole time, you start losing life. And I'm like, that is the stupidest thing ever.
That is
Wolverine,
stupid.
It doesn't hurt Wolverine to have his claws out. I get all mad at it.
Who was your favorite character to use?
Oh, I was totally a Gambit guy.
Yeah, Gambit was the best.
Because he had the cards that we'd charge up and then you'd throw.
Although if you were Cyclops, you could hold your energy beam and he would breakdance for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah,
you look
I did
to
that
the
too.
side and you look up and it's like he's raving. He's raving in the. Sorry, you guys got video.
You got to
just raving a Cyclops.
But the whole point of the X-Men video game is that the Danger Room, which is a part of X-Men folklore,
yes,
is the kind of a virtual reality room where they can take on battles, and Magneto puts a virus in that makes the Danger Room like try to kill them.
Yes.
So they have to go through scenario after scenario trying to win this battle.
It's a really original game because you can bring in summons, like you can call Storm and she'll kill everyone on screen with Storm powers. You can bring in Iceman and he'll make a trail where maybe you couldn't jump before. It's really
Rogue
cool.
and Ice and
Rogue
Archangel.
shows up to look all busty, and that's pretty much it. I don't remember what she does.
I believe she shoots something or punches them.
I
remember.
didn't notice.
But they fly in and go away. Also, Jean Grey catches you when you fall.
Yes,
which is great
with her brain.
But it really was
Nice.
tough. I've never beat this game. I don't know if I ever will because it just gets difficult. In fact, IGN in 2011 named this game as in its 15 really, really, really hard games list.
That's a list.
That's a list.
All right, number 13. I hope you're still with us. This is also one of the best Genesis games of all time. I
That
guess
I
you can
never
say that
played.
of everything. Streets of Rage 2.
Now, why not Streets of Rage 1?
Streets of Rage 1 is like Street Fighter, and Streets of Rage 2 is like Street Fighter 2. Did
Okay,
anyone ever
okay.
start with Street Fighter?
So
No.
like Super Mario Brothers versus Super Mario Brothers.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Because they try to continue the story in Streets of Rage 2 where it's like...
In fact, the story is this. A year after the first game, the three heroes from the first game celebrate the defeat of the mysterious Mr. X. They go to a bar and they talk about how much fun they had beating the guy from the first game. The next day, they get a call from Skate, the younger brother of one of the heroes from the first game. And then Skate says his brother's been kidnapped by Mr. X, and the beatings and lootings in the city are worse than ever. And so,
Wait.
Are you want to read the worst part?
this is
I
the
actually
story.
summarized because it got too stupid.
This is my favorite part.
Okay.
So Axel and Blaze had moved out of the city after the adventure from last year. Axel has begun working as a part-time bodyguard, and Blaze teaches dance classes.
What?
Okay, so here's what we have, Jake. We have a big brute who's a professional wrestler.
Yep.
He's a good guy.
All right.
We have your normal guy, Axel,
Yeah.
and he's now a bodyguard, apparently.
I guess so.
You have Blaze, who's wearing a mini skirt, but she can do backflips and she kicks butt.
She's actually pretty tough.
She is great.
Because they do have different abilities. Like when you get there, it's like agility 4 stars, strength 2 stars, kind of stuff like
Right,
that.
right.
And could you tell me what the special ability of Skate is? Do you know what Skate would probably do?
No idea.
Rollerblades.
Wow.
He's a kid on rollerblades, but guess what? His moves are the best.
What? I didn't even play with Skate.
Oh, you should have.
I played with Axel, Max, and Blaze.
He goes a little bit quicker, and he does break dances that gets spins everyone out of control.
See, I never played this one.
It's
back
all
in
about the
Sega
dancing
days.
for you, isn't it?
It's all about the dancing. So this one was a side scroller, but at the same time, it would be a little more 3D, meaning kind of like you can move up and down on the screen. And the bosses were really varied. It was very cool. It was I'm trying to think of a Double Dragon. If you've ever played Double
Yeah,
Dragon, on the
like a
NES,
smoother Double
this
Dragon.
was a smooth Double Dragon.
Yeah.
And this game is
Similar
great.
to it's like the Ninja Turtles arcade game.
Yes.
It was very similar to that. And I hadn't played this once again until we started making this list. And Kent said, "No, we need to have it other. Stop making me cry."
This list made me cry a few times.
And I said, "Fine, I'll play it." And I played it. It was a lot of fun. Like this was actually a fun one because
Great two-player game
It's not
as
just
well.
like it's not Double Dragon where you're just like like you're doing these fight combos and like punching people behind you as you're punching forward and then spinning around doing like a roundhouse. It was
Really
a lot of fun.
jazzy soundtrack as well.
No, that's
Jazzy.
No, that's what this game is known for its soundtrack. As in, it was one of the revolutionary. This could be played in a club. That's how good this music is.
That's pushing it, but
That's what they said. That's what that. All
I
my
would
research was
if
saying.
I went to a club and they start playing this, I would probably just stay
I'm thinking
there.
they're saying
come
in the
on.
year that it came out.
The soundtrack was
93.
influenced by electronic dance music, specifically house, techno, hardcore techno, and breakbeat.
Oh, breakbeat. That's the best for sure.
Well, clearly people are listening to the music right now, so people are probably rocking out.
Yeah, in fact,
right.
yeah, I got all the soundtracks and sent them to Kent and said,
Magic.
Put it behind the episode. This is going to be
Please.
great.
I will, Joel. I will, as long as we can include the game I want.
The next one is Toe Jam and Earl.
Boo!
I hear you guys talk about this one all the time.
Well, we talked about this one back
the
on.
time?
Especially you, Ken.
No, we pitched it. There was a pitch for it back on episode 58.
The
back
Toe
in
Jam
May
and Earl
23rd.
Connected Universe.
Yeah, where it was like a Toe
Yeah.
Jam and Earl movie because we were talking about video game movies.
This is all
And it
such
was
a blind
joke.
spot to me.
But Toe Jam and Earl, Ken, you didn't like this one.
No, I didn't.
Like, did you not like it then and not like it now, or did you not play it then and not like it now?
I didn't really play it then, and I just didn't like it now.
Because it was a refreshing change from all the other games we had on
Because
there.
they're all like side-scroller beat-em-ups.
And this is like an overhead, you walk around. The whole point of Toe Jam and Earl is these two aliens, Toe Jam and Earl, who are
Just to give you a depiction,
All right.
Jake, do you remember from 1991 when they had the Looney Tunes shirts where the Tasmanian Devil and Bugs Bunny were wearing their clothes backwards and it was cool?
Yeah.
They were like thugs. Those are these characters.
pretty much Toe Jam's like three-legged red.
There was a whole thing in the early
licorice-looking alien.
90s, wasn't it? Yeah.
But and he's wearing a gold chain that says TJ on it for Toe Jam, and then Earl's a big dude. And they do talk like kind of this California surfer thing going on, and it's all about rap and funk and how cool it is. And I can see the executives in their office going, "We gotta appeal to kids. What do kids like these days? Yo, kids like rap." And so they put it all in there.
Rap.
But I enjoyed this game because the whole point is these two aliens crash on Earth, and all you have to do is walk around these stages and find the pieces to your ship. And you don't really. I mean, there's
Why is that
threats.
interesting?
Because it's tongue in cheek.
Like Diablo, but you don't fight anyone. You just run away.
It's a very friendly game for kids and families, but also it's just silly. Like there's a Cupid that coming around and he tries to shoot you, and if you get hit by him, your controls get all messed up. But this is actually a very popular game, and it's because it was really kind of groundbreaking at the time because it was this humorous, like apparently 2-player. People got a kick out of the 2-player, and it was one of the first games where if you're together, the screen's the same, but if you moved apart, it would split screen.
Yeah, which is
That's interesting.
cool.
Yeah.
It's just so kitsch.
That's a good innovation.
Yeah, but
Diablo for kids, huh?
yeah,
There you go.
that's they should.
No,
have
now
done.
people are going to want to play it.
You
It's
still
not good.
replaying Diablo?
No, it's
Oh,
still fun.
absolutely.
And like I said, this was a refreshing change because the other ones it was all like intense, like you had to hit the B button over and over again, or like in Gunstar Heroes, I was basically holding down one button the entire time with the laser chaser.
Yeah.
because it just stays on the
How
bad
do you
guys.
think I got these thumbs? Look at these muscles on these thumbs. I mean, they're like
Just
drumsticks.
flexing his thumbs right now.
I'm flexing my thumbs.
But then
It's basically a turkey leg.
right, it's
I'm gonna be
a turkey
honest.
leg from
Yeah.
Disney. That Sega Genesis did this.
But Toe Jam and Earl
You're going
is
to be
like
delicious
this.
for some cannibal someday.
It's got this relaxed soundtrack, this kind of funky dun 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 beam bean, which will be playing in the background, and you just walk around and try and find the parts, and just weird things happen. Like you pick up these presents, and you don't know what's inside them, but you open it up, and one like makes a decoy of you, or one makes it so you can put rose bushes to block people from hurting you.
Diablo
'Cause
for kids.
There's just you're
Yeah.
walking around Earth, and people keep trying to hurt you, but you're not really fighting anyone. You're just trying to find the parts to your ship and get off the planet. So I welcome this on the list. I think
That's what
and
I'm
it is
trying to do,
iconic.
too.
You cannot deny
It
it's
is
iconic.
iconic.
Because Toe Jam and Earl, give it a shot. You might enjoy it.
Do you know what else is iconic?
Number 11.
Michael Jackson.
Michael.
So we are talking about Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. That is the name of the game. It came out in 1990. So the focus of this game is finding children. No, don't say it like that. That makes it sound
A little
terrible.
delay.
Michael Jackson needs to find some kids.
No. So these kids
Is
have
it
been,
not?
These kids have been kidnapped by Mr. Big, and Michael Jackson is there to save them.
He is.
That's
by,
what he's
by
always
opening
said.
a door, and they walk out and say Michael, and they get taken away by a star.
Exactly. So every kid resembles Katie from the
I think
the
I've heard
Moonwalker
enough,
short.
honestly.
No, but this game, I mean, if you've seen the Smooth Criminal music video, it's based on that, and then it has thriller elements too. And
Yes.
but the Moonwalker movie, if you never have seen Michael Jackson's Moonwalker movie,
You're welcome.
give it a watch because
Oh.
it is bizarre.
No, it's bizarre, but like he does turn into a car and a giant robot.
Yes, he does.
But it's actually great because that's where Smooth Criminal comes from.
no, and that portion of Smooth Criminal is great.
Yes.
but
Revolutionary, even.
Yeah, but I'm not going to be showing my kids Moonwalker for a while.
You don't want him to find them?
I
You
don't want them to have
find your
nightmares
kids?
about Michael Jackson. Although I do show them Thriller.
Yeah, if anything's given
But
nightmares.
the Thriller's creepy for different reasons.
All right.
Okay, so Michael Jackson. So Jake, you got to play this game. We're going to play this right after this.
We will.
You will get a kick out of it. So his attacks,
Kick.
yeah, his attacks are a stylized high kick that is it's his dance routine
It's
essentially.
his little Michael Jackson kick where he pulls up his pant leg and then kicks, and then stars shoot out of his toes.
Yeah, and he also does the hand thing, and he does his hat where he takes off his hat.
The hat's only if you hold down the button though, and then you throw it around.
You're getting into the details, Joel.
But then
Yeah,
if you hold it down long
Kid
enough,
knows his dancing in video games, okay?
no, but if you hold it down
This is
long
the best
enough,
part.
if you hold down long enough, everyone starts dancing with you, and then they all die at the end.
Oh, and
Really?
if you find a bonus, if you open the right door, Bubbles the monkey comes out.
No. He only comes after you found all the girls, and then he points the way to the boss.
Oh, that's true. And he'll ride on your back.
Yeah, but Bubbles the monkey
will ride on
jumps
your back.
out and just points, and you follow his hand to the boss.
This sounds like a nightmare.
It kind of is, but it's great.
But it belongs on the Sega Classic that we're pitching.
Fun fact, Mega Magazine, never heard of it,
Mega Magazine
placed the game at number 91 in their list of best Mega Drive games of all time. And they said,
Genesis.
in quote, it was average.
It's the best.
It's
average.
Number 91.
That sounds like a Baconsale thing.
It was average. Baconsale approved.
That's funny. All right, number
10. We're in the top 10 now.
Time for the top 10.
And I put
Let's
this
do it.
one as Jurassic Park, which is frightening in the dark.
Nice reference
Thank
there.
you. I like a good Weird Al reference. But so Jurassic Park, obviously based on the video game, but the reason I think this should be included on the list, because this is one of the first games where you could play as the villain.
Ooh.
Because you can be Dr. Grant.
Nedry? You could be Nedry in this, one, right?
But you can be Dr. Grant, and you're trying to find your
You can be
way
a
back to the
dinosaur?
visitor center, and then you can be a velociraptor, and you're trying to find Dr. Grant and kill him.
It's actually awesome.
That is awesome.
Now, Dr. Grant, it's kind of dumb because Dr. Grant walks around with tranquilizer darts and smoke grenades.
Yeah.
And doesn't actually kill any of the dinosaurs. He just kind of tranquilizes them. They go "Brrr," and fall over as you're walking past Triceratops and Dilophosaurus.
It's animal rights for dinosaurs, obviously.
But then the Velociraptor, he just straight up kills people. Like
Yeah.
he's slashing and biting and eating and
Like it's a security staff for Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
And he just gets to eat them in little compies.
But this was a hard game. It looked good though. It looks like Jurassic Park, and they have like little cut scenes where you can kind of see like you see a raptor fence with the raptor cage, the raptor cage, and then like the lights go out, and it comes back on, and the raptor there's a hole in the cage, and all of a sudden the raptor appears in front of the screen. It's pretty entertaining. Cool. And but this one,
You need to play this. You should probably see the movie too.
oh yeah, you probably should, Jacob.
it's a movie?
Yeah.
But
Crazy, right?
This game also features artificial dinosaur intelligence, which would make it so that dinosaurs would act differently every time. So it would be a different experience every time you play. So it's not just the same. You can't get the pattern as much on this one. There's still some patterns, but
Is that why it was so hard? Or is it because it's Dr. Grant, he moves so slow, and he had to climb so many ledges?
so many ledges? And also, this was the first video game to utilize Sega's new rating system. It got a GA, general audience.
Okay.
Even though the dinosaurs straight up killing people.
Yeah, that blood looked real, and it
But
really
the
messed me up.
Well, and the sound effects too, like the raptor sound effects. As I was playing it just the other day, I was like, "Oh man, that reminds me of Jurassic Park. Like that's the raptor noises."
Guys, this should have been a YouTube show. And then we could like show little clips of the game.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
That'd have been a good one.
No.
So much work.
YouTube channel coming up. Number 9 is one of the most classic Sega games that actually had 3 versions of this game.
And I didn't really play it.
You didn't play it even this time around?
No, I did. I played it this time around, and when I played it, I recognize it, but I wasn't. And I did play it back in the day, but not as much.
Okay. I think the cover, and this was a big time arcade game as well, the cover of this game is pretty much rated R.
This is the cover that I showed you, Jacob. When I said this should be our episode.
This is
image.
Golden Axe.
Oh, that one.
Yes.
Came out in
Yes.
1989, one of the early Genesis games.
With the guy wearing a postage stamp as for a Speedo and a girl
Oh, I
wearing...
will explain these characters.
It was very He-Man-y.
So there are 3 characters you can be. You can be the battle axe wielding dwarf, but his name is Gilius Thunderhead.
Gilius Thunderhead.
You can be a male barbarian named Axe Battler.
Axe Battler!
Or the last is a longsword wielding woman named Tyrus Flare.
I'm Tyrus Flare.
I was wondering how that one was going to go.
This game is once again, it's a little bit like Streets of Rage. It's hack and slash, side scrolling. You can move up and down the screen as well. You can jump to different like levels and steps. Mm-hmm. The AI in this game is really smart. Did you notice this?
Well,
So-
they were tough.
Yeah, they're tough and like they're really hard to predict as well. And they'll like one will distract you from one side while another one attacks you from the back.
Clever girl.
Exactly. I was playing this last night and I was like, oh man, it's a really slow moving, kind of clunky controlled kind of game.
Yeah. Especially after playing Streets of Rage and going to this was a bad move.
Because this was one of the first Genesis games of sorts.
Yeah.
But it is classic. It has Golden Axe 1, 2, and 3, and they did get a little better as time went
But
on.
it has the added twist of magic,
Yes.
which you get these potions by kicking
magic.
little elves or sprites.
Yep.
You kick them
Little
and you get
treasure
potions.
elves, yeah.
But then your attack when you use magic depends on how many magics you have, and it gets bigger and bigger as it goes. Like what's her name? Tyrus Flare. If she gets full potion, she calls down fire from the heavens. and it's like, coming down like comets. But then if you get full magic, a full-on dragon comes in and just blows everybody away.
My favorite part about this game is I just mentioned all their names, and they're all like really mystical and fantastical. They're trying to avenge the death of their friend Alex.
Poor Alex.
There's
Gilius,
really
was a
Battler,
shame.
Tyrius, and Alex.
All right, number 8.
Oh no, here
I
we
know
go.
this one.
Here we go.
Number 8 is one we chose to include because it is forever associated with the Sega Genesis. In fact, if you imagine Sega Genesis, you probably saw this game coming with it because no one would have bought it otherwise. Maybe. It's Echo the Dolphin.
Wow. Pretty good, right?
that was Kent, everybody.
And I was doing this, like I was moving backwards.
I like how you say I was doing this and then do the same thing that people can't see.
Everyone was doing
true.
this.
This is a 1992 game, and this is the first installment in the Echo the Dolphin franchise.
What? How big is this franchise?
I think there's like 4 games.
There's the Tides of Time. There's a Game Gear
All
one
right,
as
Jacob.
well.
Are you ready? You played this a
Are you
little
going
bit
to read the
tonight.
whole synopsis?
No,
Or
no,
you
no.
gonna break it down.
Just part of it here.
Okay.
I'm excited.
So,
Because I summarized it as well.
the player character Echo, a bottlenose dolphin, travels through time to combat hostile extraterrestrials and Earth's oceans and on an alien spacecraft.
Joel, if I may, I think you did it a disservice, okay?
No, okay, one more. I have one more. I want to
Okay.
read.
Thank you, Echo.
Echo
what you
travels to
did.
the sunken city of Atlantis, where he discovers a time machine and an ancient library. So,
And he gains a weaponized sonar blast. So
Yes.
remember the thing you were using to talk to other
Yeah, yeah.
dolphins? That
Yeah.
becomes weaponized. And then he
course.
goes back in time to when his pod is sucked up by an alien ship
Yes.
so they can harvest all the ocean's animals. And he uses his sonar blast to kill the Vortex Queen.
it gets pretty
Oh,
weird.
spoiler alert. Sorry. Sorry.
But I don't think anyone ever conquered it, so it doesn't matter because
Doesn't he also suck up his own farts in his blowhole?
no, that's Dolphin
Dreamer.
Dolphin Story of a Dreamer, starring Daniel Alexander Dolphin. Daniel Alexander Dolphin. But Jacob, this actually reminded me of you, and so I wanted to read it.
I'm ready.
When they talked to
Also nervous.
they were talking to the creator, the game maker, about this. He said, I was paranoid about game rentals and kids beating the game over the weekend, so I made it hard. So it's just like, he's like, yeah, I'm just going to make this super difficult so no one will ever conquer it. And for some reason, just the response of, yeah, I just made it hard so kids can conquer it. Reminded me of you. I don't know why.
I'm not sure why either.
And guess what? It is so difficult.
It's impossible.
Although Jake got over that ledge the first time around.
Does it sound like something I would say?
No, it sounds like you like to torture kids. Sorry about that.
Anyway, but the gameplay, and it is kind of cool to be a dolphin for like 5-10 minutes
Yeah.
and swim around and jump, but then it gets super boring and super hard, and the music gets super soothing, and then you fall super asleep.
But is it super?
If
It's okay.
If anyone's ever
It's average.
if anyone's ever played the phone game, the Hungry Shark one, it's the same basic
Hungry
engine.
shark, do 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 do.
It's
Hungry
the Mama
shark,
Jaws.
do do.
Did you? Oh no, what's happening?
We're dads.
Yeah, exactly. But have you ever played that where you're just a little shark swimming around in the ocean and you just eat whatever's there and it's basically that
Feeding
engine.
frenzy?
Maybe.
Sure, let's go with that.
There's a shark and you eat things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I played feeding frenzy.
All right, you guys ready for number 7?
Yes.
Boy, am I.
Finish it. Tyrus Flame.
No, you ruined it.
What's her name? Did I miss her name?
It's a spin-off. It's Tyrius Flame.
Tyrius Flame.
Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat. Which, by the way, that scream in the song, which everyone knows,
Could you sing it for us?
the song.
Can you say all
It's
the
just
characters' names?
Oh, yes, of course I can.
They're in the game?
We already did this on a couple other
It's
shows.
my favorite thing you do.
Just put it when I did it before the show.
That
Just
was
put that at
years
the
ago.
end.
I have to find that.
I
No,
really
I-
don't remember you saying the names.
You probably recorded me when I was doing it before the show started, so just put it at the end of the show. But
Ruins all the fun.
that call, that Mortal Kombat, actually came from a commercial for the game. And they made this commercial as
Really?
kind of this powerhouse, and they sampled that one line and then put it in the music.
Nice.
So remember, it was 1992. The two biggest arcade games were Street Fighter II and Mortal Kombat as the new challenger. Mortal Kombat.
Parents everywhere were
Parents everywhere were
concerned.
horrified.
Oh, we'll get into that.
And their kids are like, "Hey, can I steal a quarter?" Yeah, as long as you don't play that terrible game. Go play Donkey Kong or Pac-Man, please. But you know what we wanted to play? The bloody game Mortal
Bloody
Kombat.
version.
This is the game that parents worried about their kids getting, which we have talked about this before on another podcast.
Yes. So they worried so much that Nintendo was like, you know what? We're going to make this pretty family friendly. So they released no blood on their version.
It was like gray sweat when you punch somebody.
And then Genesis was like, yeah, we're going to do the same. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
By the way, kids, there's a code you can use and you'll get blood.
So what was the code?
ABACABB.
Why?
Abacab? I don't remember.
It was because it's a nod to the Abacab album by the band Genesis.
What?
Sega did an in-joke. It did an Easter egg. And so they share their name with the North American version of the console. They did that because
I like
of
him
the
even more
band
now.
Genesis.
I like him even more now.
Yeah, of course you do, Phil Collins fanboy.
And Peter Gabriel. They were both in
I'll
Genesis.
I'll give you that. So here's the thing. That was the blood code. That is the famous blood code.
Yep.
And it made the game worth playing because you'd always, well, I had it, but you'd always be like, oh, my buddy's got the Genesis one and we can go play. Oh, I have it on Super Nintendo. It's not the same. It's not the same.
It's totally different.
Yeah, then the fatalities were cut down. This one, the fatalities were still there for the most part.
Okay, so in the fatalities, Sub-Zero would grab in Sega Genesis, would grab the dude's head and pull it off, and his spine would be dangling.
And it'd be like 4 pixels.
I remember
That's all you
that.
would see.
Yeah. And in the bloodless version, he'd punch him and he'd fall over.
Yes.
I remember the fatalities in Super Nintendo, though.
You think you do.
Yeah, it's cute.
Am I just remembering it wrong?
You might be. Because they removed most of them and they took all the blood out. That's what was the funny thing about it. But people forget that this was one of the first games where the fighters looked like real people.
Yeah.
Because they did film real people in front of a gray or blue background and then put them into the game and had them do a lot of the moves. Well, some of the moves. Some of the moves they couldn't do. And so they made it. That's why they look really weird when they're flying through the air or doing a flip, because it's not really doing it.
This is one of those that at sleepovers, we would just keep handing the controller to each other because we could not beat Goro for the life of us.
He's got 4 arms, man.
Yeah. And Goro in the story of the game, he hasn't been beat for 500 years. So you really think you're going to beat him on a Friday night when it's 11:30 at night? I don't think so.
11:30? Like, that's so late.
And you're eating bags of gummy bears? This was last week.
No, but I remember seeing them play this one in the arcade and thinking, this game is amazing. I must have it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, so good. Oh, this one, Electronic Gaming Monthly awarded Mortal Kombat with the title of the most controversial game of 1993. And this one was given the MA13 rating by the Video Game Rating Council.
Eventually.
Oh, was it eventually?
This is one of the ones
because
that
they're like, it's like you put the blood code in there.
Well, it's like this one and Night Trap, which was a Sega CD game. Both of those
We don't want to
made
talk about Night Trap.
Well, it's actually pretty fun, but it's bizarre, but it was
dark.
fun. It is dark, but as a kid, you're like, "This is so cool! I'm setting these traps."
Sega CD game.
Yeah, but so we're not going to get into it here. But because of Mortal Kombat, because of Night Trap, basically government got involved and said we need to start rating these games. And so it's because of this one that we have the rating game system as we do. But Nintendo did put their own label on it first. They came up with their own rating system, and then once the federal, that's what I was thinking of, federal ratings were adopted, just kind of went to that.
Right.
Number 6 is one of the most bizarre games we have on here, but man, it's fun.
It really is.
Earthworm Jim.
This is another one you guys referenced.
Earthworm Jim. Well, because it's just so bizarre, because they wanted to do something crazy. And so they decided, hey, what if we did a game with an earthworm, a super suit falls on him from space, and then it gives him powers. And then he uses his head as a whip, like pulls his head out to whip.
I feel like this
That all
game
seems normal.
This game was in direct response to the Nickelodeon channel back in the 90s.
I can see that.
Where the Nickelodeon channel was like so weird and random, and even Beavis and Butthead in a way. Although there are some different games like Booger Man that maybe borrowed from that.
Booger!
You love it.
But they needed a gimmick. And Earthworm Jim was that gimmick, but you know what?
It is a
really
gimmick.
fun game.
And it's fluid animation. This was another one where it felt like you were playing a cartoon. And it was kind of tongue-in-cheek because you have characters like Queen Slug for a butt and Evil the Cat. And
laughed at that.
Professor Monkey for a head.
The
and
princess is what?
Princess What's Her Name.
Yes, exactly.
And they actually made Princess What's Her Name because they were talking about how so many video games had some throwaway female character that needed to be saved, and it didn't matter what her name was, so they kind of made that tongue-in-cheek on this one.
What happens in the game to Princess What's Her Name?
So this is the best part of the game.
Do you like how Joel and I built it? Because we were both like super
Yeah.
excited about these.
And so with Earthworm Jim, at the very beginning, one of the first things you do, for no reason, is you jump on a catapult, and it launches a cow in the air. And it just goes "Meow," and flies off the screen. And
Very
then
beginning of the game.
And then occasionally during the game, there'll be a cow in the background just going "Meow." And it's just kind of entertaining. Every now and then it shows up. And at the very end, you save Princess What's Her Name, and then she gges smashed by the cow.
The cow lands on her.
Like at the very end. I don't know if it kills her. I think she's just very, very
Oh, if
upset.
you turn on the blood code, it kills her.
I don't think there's a blood cut on Earthworm Jim. But this spawned a sequel, Earthworm Jim 2. It also spawned a cartoon series based on Earthworm Jim. It really did kind of I wish it would have caught a little more on because it was pretty entertaining. Like, it was funny. But it did well. So good job, Earthworm Jim, for making our list of games you should include on the Sega Genesis Classic.
Here is a game that I will fight about all day long. In fact, I could do an entire Versus show about this one compared to the Super Nintendo version. It is Disney's Aladdin. Came out in 1993. This is the best Genesis game of 1993. And here's the thing. Everyone might say, much like you, Jake, you played the Super Nintendo one, right?
A lot.
And it was fine. Wasn't it a fine game?
This is a great game.
It was fine.
No, it was really good.
Okay.
It'll get great.
We'll
Don't
play
get
it
him
again.
started. He'll start drawing pictures of you getting killed by Sonic.
Yeah, watch out. It was a good game, but it was also kind of not really Disney licensed. So it was Virgin Interactive. They were the ones that did Lion King and Sega Genesis Aladdin, and they were licensed by Disney to create these games. In fact, they were the only ones that could use the soundtracks from the Disney movies.
That repetitive soundtrack, like we talked
Yes,
about.
but still
no,
great.
like we talked about in Lion King, where
Right.
it was fun, and you're like, I know this music, and then it would play over and over, and then you couldn't get it out of your head.
I'm sorry, though. The music in the Magic Carpet sequence is so good.
You want to do it first right now, above the other music that we're playing?
I actually may. So here's the thing, and here's why this wins. I mean, you played them side by side, and I really think you should. You'll be like, oh yeah, the Genesis one is a step above, because the animation's great. The Super Nintendo one wouldn't allow Genie on the cover, because there was this whole Robin Williams dispute that he wanted more money, and so Super Nintendo's like, we're not putting you on the cover. So the guy who made the Super Nintendo version said he has a preference for the Sega Genesis version, the one he didn't work on. He says, if I didn't actually make the Super Nintendo game, I would probably buy the Genesis one. Animation-wise, I think it's the Genesis version is better. The Genesis version had a sword, actually. I wanted to have a sword, but Super Nintendo would not allow him to have a sword. Aladdin, that is, not the creator.
Yeah.
He had a sword in the development booth.
I have to say though, when I tried it a minute ago, it was weird. It felt unnatural having a sword because Aladdin was all friendly and running around. Like that's kind of his whole motif, right?
He's a thief. He's a vandal.
He's a thief.
Yeah, he's a vandal. He's running around. He's always escaping from
He's
the
a thief.
He is,
Vandal. Outrage. Scandal. Let's not be too hasty.
Still, I think he's rather tasty.
wow. he
Gotta
went
eat to
into
live,
that.
gotta still to eat. Otherwise, we get along wrong.
And that's the thing. With this game, you're getting the Aladdin soundtrack. You're getting the Disney quality animation that Lion King had. And you were getting like just a great game engine that was borrowed from Disney games in the future. And this continued for a few years while the Disney movies and games were still good in that era. So, man, this game is amazing. If you've only ever played the Super Nintendo one, go get a Raspberry Pi and play the Sega Genesis one. Yes.
Number 4, I'm just going to read the synopsis here. The game is set in ancient Greece and follows Centurion, who's resurrected by Zeus to rescue his daughter Athena.
Rise from your grave.
And to do so, becomes able to turn into beasts such as a werewolf with the use of power-ups. Altered Beast, 1988. This is early Sega stuff.
Yes.
It's pretty great too.
This is one of their spearhead kind of games.
My 5 minutes of playing.
Yeah. And this was a 2-player game. You could play with 2 players and then fight over who gets the power-ups, which was always...
Well, the 2 players, the only thing that discriminated the characters were like different, kind of like different colored
It's
togas.
Contra, yeah.
But the more you power up, the less clothes you have on.
Yes, because you start out like this is dressed as a Roman maybe or
Story of my life.
a Grecian, I guess. And then you get 1 orb, you get a little stacked, your shirt rips off, and then you get 2 orbs, and you wear a Speedo, and you're like bulked up like Schwarzenegger.
And your head's still tiny.
But then you get the 3rd orb, and it does this cut screen where you turn from a human into a werewolf, or it could also be a thunder were-dragon, a were-bear, a were-tiger, and a golden werewolf.
Can we talk about the werebear real quick? The werebear is in the underground level. And what was the werebear's power, Joel?
Doesn't he... I don't remember right now.
He has a fart bubble.
No, he doesn't.
Yep. He bends over, and a fart bubble comes out.
No, he doesn't.
We will play it.
I don't remember that.
Yep, it was my favorite. Dude,
I just played this. I don't remember that.
I was 10 years old, and this was easily my favorite game for this reason.
I think you were just imagining fart bubbles.
Is this why you like the dolphin? That
Dolphin Story of a Dreamer?
Yeah. Daniel Dolphin.
Fly, Daniel Dolphin, fly.
I'm 12 still.
This was one of those games that I think everyone knew, at least the image of that weird kind of boss character with the horns and the big belly. And
Welcome to your dome.
Yeah, and the voice work. Like in 1988, they're putting voices in the game.
In a cartridge, which never happened.
No, and they don't, they'd have little, like they would just do like the Charlie Brown noises for speaking, but they actually put voices in. And it was better in the arcade, obviously, than the console. Mm-hmm. But still, Sega did a great job, and good on them. It's why it made our top 5 for should be included on the Sega Genesis Classic.
That was a console seller, really.
You guys play Castle Crashers?
No.
Oh, the
don't know what
phone
that is.
game?
No. Oh gosh, Kent, you're gonna like this. Okay,
Don't
go
look at
on.
me. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, Jake's going on tangents. For
All right,
games
so
I
we're
need to
into
play.
our
I'm
top
obvious.
The way
three.
you described that reminded me of Castle Crashers.
Okay.
And anyway, it's a
When you
really
power up, you lose clothes?
really beloved game. No, mostly the farting bear.
Oh, great! I'm
Yeah,
in.
so you're gonna be into it.
That's all you needed to say.
Yeah.
Is there a farting bear?
Yes.
Oh wait, I love open season.
There you go. Yes, you do. Let it know.
Call back.
It's now Baconsale approved. Which now we're into our top 3 need to be included games.
All I need to say for number 3 is Boom Shakalaka.
He's on fire!
NBA Jam.
Wow. And we were talking about throwing a bone to the sports people before, but I think both Kent and I legitimately love this game.
I
It's
remember
a fabulous game.
there was one time I was really heavily involved in Scouts back in the day, and I was 12. I think I was 12. Yeah, 1993. And my friend had NBA Jam, and we were doing service at this old lady's house. We were like cutting branches and stuff, and all we were talking about while doing service was getting to his house as fast as possible and playing NBA Jam. We were so
Who'd you
stoked.
play as?
He's on fire.
There's no way you can't play as Karl Malone and John Stockton.
Exactly.
But man,
Unless you did the code and you could play as like Al Gore or the Hornets, Charlotte Hornets mascot.
Yeah. See, okay, NBA Jam was actually one of the first of its kind because it was a licensed game by the NBA, much like the NHL got involved. And you could be the top 2, sometimes top 3.
But they
at
couldn't get
best.
Shaq and they couldn't
players.
get Michael Jordan. Like those are
Right.
2 they couldn't license for this game, so they had to get other people.
Yeah. And so, but you could actually play as the
Pretty
players
messed
that
up.
you knew, and the graphics at that point seemed very real, especially with Big Head mode. That you'd be like,
Yeah, Big
hey,
Head.
really defining characteristics, but you had to play as John Stockton and Karl Malone.
Of course you did. Of course
This
you did.
was the golden age of the NBA, I feel. And man, were these teams great. I mean, almost every team had 2 major stars at this point. And just the franchises were incredible. The gameplay was so much fun. It was as cheap as all get out, right? All you could do was like dunk from half court, and you just
Which
kept
was
doing that back
awesome.
and forth. It was awesome.
He's warming up.
But this is a game that if you really wanted to just kind of show the excitement and the action level of sports games to like maybe a kid nowadays, you just put this game in. The graphics,
Yeah.
sure.
No, but this was great, and this was one of the games I played in my video game championship tournament. It was NBA Jam, Virtua Fighter.
I forgot you did
and Sonic.
that.
Yeah, and this was one of the games, and it was so much fun. I really enjoyed this one.
It's so good. Do you have much experience with this one, Jake?
Oh yeah, I played this one a ton. Super Nintendo though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
and it's the same. It's the same
Super
actually.
Nintendo.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, you keep talking about Super Nintendo, and
This is
phone
Sega show.
games.
That's the
Yeah.
one I had. A Castle Crashers is not a phone game.
It seems like it.
So our number 2.
You're gonna love that game. I'm gonna show it to you.
Our number 2 is fitting because it is a number 2 game. It's Mortal Kombat 2.
Yes.
Now, we listed these separately because there wasn't, at least on the Genesis, there wasn't a compilation game of all the Mortal Kombats that were on there. And also, no one wanted Mortal Kombat number 3 because
Well,
it was dumb.
it's no good. And let's be honest, 2, much like Street Fighter 2, like we brought this up, sequels at this point just got better, except for
well,
Mortal Kombat 3.
The 2. Because Mortal Kombat 1 was groundbreaking and great, but Mortal Kombat 2 was where it hit its stride and got everything perfect, where it had just enough characters to keep it interesting, just enough finishing moves to keep it interesting, because instead of fatalities, you had 2 fatalities, babalities, friendships. Oh, I'm missing one. No, that's okay. Good, I got it. Yeah. Toasty! Whenever you get the right punch. And Easter eggs. There were Easter eggs. You had levels where you could interact with the level. Like you could knock the guy off the bridge into the spikes or up on the ceiling or into the acid pit. Like there was all these things you could do in this game. And this was my game. Like Mortal Kombat 2, I would learn all the moves. Like back in the day, I could play with any character and be like, I know the finishing moves and do it.
Jeez.
And do it well. And of course, Reptile was always probably Reptile or
Reptile's
Scorpion.
great.
Those
Scorpion's the cheapest, but yes, Johnny Cage.
cheapest. What was cheap about Scorpion?
Get over here.
You could block
Yeah,
that
it's easy.
so easy.
That's the cheapest move in the game.
No,
Johnny
no.
Cage for life.
Johnny Cage was awesome.
Yeah.
I love Johnny Cage. Actually, funny story. So originally, like this is jumping back to Mortal Kombat, but they were trying to make a game about Jean-Claude Van Damme fighting, and they couldn't get the rights to it, and they couldn't get him involved. So they just created Johnny Cage as kind of a stand-in character.
Really?
Yeah.
And then Jean-Claude was in Street Fighter.
Yeah,
The movie.
which was terrible.
Best movie. What?
Okay.
And according to and can
Yes.
I ask you who one of your least favorite characters to play with was? One of the most boring characters.
Oh, wow.
When you think of a boring,
Jax.
no, not Jax. Like think of a boring character. Who's the most boring character in Mortal Kombat?
Raiden.
No,
Raiden.
what? He's the god of thunder.
I'm trying to
It's
think.
Liu Kang.
I was
Liu
okay with Liu
Kang.
King.
Liu Kang
honestly.
was absolutely
The bicycle
boring.
kick was great.
Yeah.
But I thought Liu Kang was absolutely boring. But by Mortal Kombat canon, and actually by Mortal Kombat 2, he won the first Mortal Kombat.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter who you play with in Mortal Kombat 1. Liu Kang won because he's the one who's the winner in this one and starts the whole thing up.
Right.
But this actually, first week sales of this game of Mortal Kombat 2, 50 million. It surpassed the box office that weekend of The Forrest Gump, True Lies, The Mask, and The Lion King. This made more money than those movies in its opening weekend.
That's crazy.
It's crazy.
Can I say something controversial?
Please.
The Super Nintendo version's better.
Of Mortal Kombat 2?
Yeah.
No.
I played
Get
both.
off the show.
Why are you switching teams now?
Go sit on
No.
that side with Jake.
No.
I should have known I can't go through a whole episode of Baconsale without you two teaming up.
No, it's weird. They did. Super Nintendo really stepped up their game because they included blood with Mortal Kombat 2.
Yeah, they
So
decided.
did the Genesis one without a
Yeah.
code, but the Super Nintendo one was actually a slightly better port.
I
than
don't
this.
think it was.
No, sound effects, the way it looks, it's a little bit more rendered. It's slightly better.
We're trying this after.
No, I'm totally fine with that.
Okay.
Look, I played Mortal Kombat 2 on Genesis, but recently going back, I can look at it retroactively and be like, with less bias, the Super Nintendo's a little bit better.
I thought you were a Genesis fan, but okay.
I'm so sorry.
So let's go with our number one.
Number one.
And
The
this
time has
is kind of
arrived.
a cheat.
It's not. Well, look, we have not mentioned a big name. All right. Well, maybe
Mahershala
we'll
Well, you've
Hashbaz.
mentioned, but yeah.
Boogerman.
Booger! No, it's actually Tiny Toon Adventures is our number. No,
That's actually a good game.
It is, but that same thing. That music will get stuck in your head for weeks
Yes.
after.
Not top 20.
We
The number one game, Sega Genesis, is
The one that
Sonic
they should include.
the Hedgehog.
Now, not just Sonic the Hedgehog, because, well, so there was a Sega Genesis game called Sonic Classics 3-in-1, and it included Sonic 1, Sonic 2, and then Dr. Robotnik's
Mean Bean Machine.
Mean Bean Machine, that's the one. But that was what we included because it was an actual Genesis game. But if they're going to create a Sega Classic, I think Kent would agree, you need to include Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, and Sonic & Knuckles, and
Yes.
just leave it at that.
Fun fact. So Sonic and Knuckles.
because they're all equally good.
I did more chores. Actually, 3 is. So 2 is way better than 1.
2 is the best.
2 is the best. 3 is still really good.
3 is probably
Sonic and Knuckles, which was supposed to be an improvement.
It's
It's
like
not
you can
actually
go Super
officially
Saiyan on
Sonic
that
4.
one.
What's that?
You can just go Super Saiyan on Sonic 3.
Yeah,
That's why you like
Super
it.
Saiyan.
Yeah.
So it was a game that you could open the top and then put Sonic 2, Sonic 1, or Sonic 2, 3. Connect that so it's a really tall game, and you can play as Knuckles in any of the previous games.
Wow.
It's pretty revolutionary.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. Sonic and Knuckles, not as much fun
No,
as the other ones.
it's not. Like, Tails was a great companion. You enjoy having... No, a great companion because then
Okay.
someone could play as him and not affect your game.
Here's the thing: if you're ever playing a game with kids, an old-fashioned game, and you don't want them to ruin your game, you let them play as Tails.
Yes.
Because you can run out of the screen without them, and they kind of just float on by.
Which we talked about that on the previous
Yes.
show, but I agree. And I think that...
Sonic 2, though,
Sonic 2 is so good.
like when you're doing the whole ramp and obstacle course.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
And if you don't know what Sonic is, in an attempt to steal the 6 Chaos Emeralds and harness their power, the game's antagonist, Dr. Ivo Robotnik, has trapped the animal inhabitants of South Island in aggressive robots and stationary metal capsules. So in this game, every animal you kill, quote unquote, you're actually freeing because they're real animals trapped in a robot body. So you never really kill anybody.
Oh, how
Also,
nice.
Dr. Robotnik is known as Dr. Eggman out in in Japan, which I think is
And now he's become Dr. Eggman.
it's just weird. I
kinda
call him Robotnik.
So Nintendo, because of the NES, ruled the video game market from 1985 till 1991, which is when Sonic the Hedgehog came out. And then the Sega Genesis became like the big leader for 3.5, 4 years.
Because before this, they had Alex Kidd as their
Yeah.
mascot, and they said, we need something better. We need something cooler. We need something bluer.
And so because of Sonic, they took over like 65% share of the 16-bit console market.
Fun fact,
Yeah.
Sonic the Hedgehog was originally named Mr. Needlemouse. I'm glad they went with Sonic the Hedgehog.
That was my nickname in high school.
Was it?
Really?
It was composed by a J-pop band called Dreams Come True.
What's his name?
I'm not going to say it. Masato Nakamura. There, I
Wait,
got
so
it.
he is
Nakamura. It's from like Heroes.
he is the sadomasochist who created the drowning music.
Dun, 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 dun,
I can't do it. I
dun,
can't-
dun,
please
dun,
don't.
Whoop. That was the most stressful music
It is
in the history of
the
gaming.
worst.
And I
Jake,
would,
you're looking at us like you don't know.
Did you never play Sonic?
Confession. I didn't really like Sonic.
Okay, well, you're on the same side as Kent then. You like the Super Nintendo games.
No, it's one game.
One
game.
Kent said loves the NES.
I never really got the appeal, honestly. I'm like, oh man, everybody loves this. This is going to be awesome.
Jake,
I go and play, I'll be like, this is okay.
It had blast processing. What part of blast processing do you not understand?
I guess all of it.
You'd be correct.
No, but then, and so they came up with Sonic 1. It was this amazing mascot that they put in with the games, and everyone loved him. Then they came up with Sonic 2. Super awesome as well. Everyone loved that one.
Mm-hmm.
Sonic 3, once again, a big hit. And it wasn't until Sonic and Knuckles that people kind of went, that's not as good.
And then Sonic Spinball, like they just kept on going, kept on milking it. And then future consoles, like I mentioned, like the Saturn and the Dreamcast, they made their own versions of Sonic. But once he went 3D, the game lost its charm.
Yeah.
And I think there's only a recent version of Sonic that came out like 2 months ago that people actually like again. First time in 20-something years.
Well, it's because he fits in that 2D scroller genre, and that's because the whole point of Sonic was he's fast. Like that's what they kept marketing was like Mario's just kind of walking along, and all of a sudden Sonic would like zoom past him, and you could fly through these levels. Like if you have the timing down right, you can get through these levels
And then
in a matter of
you're
seconds.
going to randomly hit someone, and all your coins are going to go.
Yeah. Although I love that idea of gameplay that you don't die as long as you're carrying a ring. And I hated it when I would only have like one ring left, and then the bad guy would I'd be on the final guy, the boss of that level, like Robotnik, and he'd hit me and I'd have to run around to get my one ring so I could go back there.
Yeah.
The one ring.
Oh, that's deep.
Strider.
They really, really took over the market with that. I think they were lucky to find a mascot like that. And they hit at the right time.
It did.
Yeah.
And it appealed. I don't know how a blue hedgehog wearing red shoes and white socks appealed to teenage me, but he was cool. And also he likes chili dogs in the cartoon. Just fun fact.
Guys, I have a confession to make.
Let's hear it.
You like the SNES version better?
I believe you.
I could go to my room right now where I'm kind of a hoarder when it comes to drawings I used to do when I was a kid. I could go pull out some binders, and I have pictures of Sonic and Tails wearing backwards clothing like the Looney Tunes characters on T-shirts.
We're going to have to post these on Baconsale on our Facebook page or Twitter.
Oh, so I'm going to have to find them?
You got to find them and scan them.
He's got binders full of Sonic.
Well done, sir.
Yeah. Sonic killing Mario, too.
Yeah.
No one wants to see those.
So there you go. Jacob, you want to read through our list, our 20 just real quick? So
That is
everyone
a great plan. Number 20 was Mutant League Football.
You can just read up.
Strider. T2, the arcade game. NHL 94. The Lion King. Gunstar Heroes. X-Men. Streets of Rage 2. Toe Jam and Earl, the coolest name ever. Made that part up. Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. Ooh. Jurassic Park. Wow. Golden Axe. Echo of the Dolphin.
What are you doing?
Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat!
Earthworm Jim. Disney's Aladdin.
No, wait, that's Lion King.
I'm like, what is that?
That was Lion King. I just got to be king.
Disney's Aladdin.
Dun, 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 dun.
There it is. Altered Beast.
Rise from your grave.
NBA Jam.
He's on fire.
Mortal Kombat 2.
Get over here.
Toasty.
Sonic Classics 3 and 1. There it is. Man, we should have had sound effects from the beginning.
We should have. We should have had just Kent add those in post and make it his job harder.
There it is.
Yeah, thanks, guys. That'd be great.
But thank you for indulging us as we talked about one of our favorite I will say my favorite console.
Ever?
Probably. I could say Genesis is my favorite console.
Wow.
Could you not?
Nope.
Well, you just haven't had newer consoles, right?
Yeah, you've stopped at Sega Genesis.
No,
It's easy. That's the last one you had.
I went to PlayStation 1.
You did?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
In consoles that I owned. I own a Wii now, but does it really count as a
No,
console?
it does not.
It
If
is
I
a
had to pick,
console,
if I had to
but-
pick now, I'd definitely be a PlayStation person. That's
Okay.
just the games I prefer and the gameplay. I
We
prefer.
could do a whole PlayStation show.
We could. But thank you. I mean, we talk about music
should.
and movies and TV a lot. And so whenever we get to try something different, we appreciate you still listening and we appreciate your feedback. So if you do have feedback, let us know. Talk to us on our Facebook page, which if you don't like us on our Facebook page, we have a lot of fun stuff going on there, as well as our Twitter account, also fun stuff. And also rate us and review us on iTunes. But if you want to find me, you can find me at 76Joel on Twitter. Or you can find me performing at Quickwits. They perform every Saturday night at the Midville Performing Arts Center. For more details, go to qwcomedy.com or go to the Quickwits Facebook page.
If you want to find me on Twitter and Instagram, it's at Kenny3DD. If you want to read my movie reviews, it's ShowtimeShowdown.com.
You can find me on Twitter as well at Jacob A. Rogers and Baconsale on Twitter at Baconsale. make sure you write in and tell these guys what games they missed and which ones they said that absolutely do not belong in that top 20.
And get excited because Halloween episodes are coming.
Oh my
Next
gosh.
week.
These guys are giddy.
Yes.
Giddy.
Woo. Michael. Gotta find some kids. So until next time, thank you for listening to Baconsale.
Rise from your grave! How dare you! That is my favorite movie of all time that I haven't watched for 35 years.
Kano, Liu Kang, Raiden, Johnny Cage, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Sonya. Mortal Kombat! Are you playing that Nintendo again?
Quit playing Nintendo. Mom, it's PlayStation 2. We're werewolves, not swearwolves.
The smooth, sexy sounds of Baconsale.
Did we check it? Did we actually check it?
Devil!
Then an old man met him and said, how about you just pay that $129 and give me a hug and I'll take the rest. And you have a lisp. I don't know why.
I was an artist and an athlete. I never really showed it the love that it maybe needed.
Mother brain!
It's going to be delicious for some cannibals someday.
Back in my day, we didn't respawn. We had 3 continues, and then we had to start the whole game over.
This was essentially Contra, except for your heroes are clothed.
No, you haven't. Others, stop making me cry.
I love this Joel so much.
I wanted a different one.
Michael!
The focus of this game is finding children,
The thriller's creepy for different reasons.
and they said, in quote, it was average.
The music for Sonic the Hedgehog was composed by Masato Nakamura. The J. Oh, I can't talk. Was composed and produced by Masato Nakamura.
Gilius Thunderhead. I'm Tyrus Flare. Finish it.
Tyrus Flame. No, you ruined it.
By the way, kids, there's a code you can use and you'll get blood.
We'll
Don't
play
get
it
him
again.
started. He'll start drawing pictures of you getting killed by Sonic.
He's not thief. He is
Outrage.
scandal. Let's not be too hasty.
Still, I think he's rather tasty.
Wow.
Gotta eat your lip, gotta still eat. Otherwise, we get along wrong. The more you power up, the less clothes you have on.
Toasty.